You're watching Daybreak. Now for a review of what's making the headlines in the papers this morning. Let's bring in a RISE analyst, Dr. Constance Ikwoku. Good morning, Dr. Constance.
Hey, morning, Yolanda.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too, looking bright and sharp.
As are you.
Thank you. Good morning to you, Charles.
Good morning, Dr. Constance.
How are you?
Glad to be alive.
Okay. What's happening? I hope nothing complicated.
Long story, don't worry.
Okay, no problem. We'll chat in the newsroom, right? Okay.
Right.
You give me everything. Okay. So look at the papers with us today. We have Ben Sheman. He is a former director of news at Voice of Nigeria. Hello there and welcome to the program. We'll begin with This Day. In This Day newspaper, a major economic story revealing high-stakes corporate power struggle between two titans, Femi Otedola and Oba Otudeko. Otedola takes over 40% of First Holdco in forced exit of Otudeko. This gives Otedola complete control of Nigeria's oldest bank, while Oba Otudeko was forced to sell over 20% shares. The reprieve for Otudeko here is that the bank will withdraw criminal complaint against him for past misdeeds, and he can retire at 82 with 300 billion naira cash. There are other details in this story, but now the bank will have to fight to raise 500 billion naira in new share capital before the CBN deadline, as well as dealing with non-performing loans of up to 1 trillion naira. What a gripping story of the battle for dominance between two powerful business figures. For men with deep pockets, the boardroom is a battleground, as we can see from the story. Now, shareholders will have to watch to see how First Holdco fares from now onwards. Ben.
It's a big fight, a battle of the titans. And bearing in mind that Otedoko has always been facing some criminal charges, with this now, he's rather been given what I call a soft landing. But what is the boomeranging effect on shareholders, for example? Now you have to go into initial public offer to raise more money to ensure that the first bank, which is rather taking the last position, now comes on board very well. Now Otedola is there with his oil money. Probably now he has to sink some money into that bank to ensure that it takes its position, its rightful place as the first bank ever in Nigeria. So when big people do fight like this, there are always consequences, just not on the bank. It has to be on the on customers, because their share money is always being used to a kind of bolster the investment of the bank. So we expect that cumulative shareholders, for example, standing shareholders, ordinary shareholders, how do you take care of all these people in the midst of this? So Otedola is smiling. He's going to get such a huge amount, even though we also have, Otedoko too, who will also smile, because apparently I don't see it as a lose-lose to any of them. They all are winners. But it goes down to the Nigerian economy. It goes down to even shareholders. Yes.
All right. We have another story in This Day, which is political. That's actually the lead story. Ahead of 2027, Atiku quits PDP, fully aligns with coalition ADC. Let's pair that with the Vanguard newspaper, which has the same story. In fact, most papers have it, but let's say Vanguard. 2027, Atiku's exit won't affect our fortunes, according to the PDP. Makinde and Bode George also commented on that exit. If we go back to Daily Sun, which has, let's go to Daily Sun, which has a more explicit caption. It says, PDP, Atiku's exit means nothing, says Makinde. They just might be right. Third time to leave the party, on whose platform he became vice president in 1999. At this point, a clean cut allows the party to see what they are dealing with. And this applies to other members also who are thinking of leaving and but still holding on, but a lot of exit we're going to see in the coming weeks, Ben.
Yes, you see, when Atiku, I think the headlines should have been that Atiku has left PDP again, because he's always, do I call him a political traveler? I remember during the days of Obasanjo, he was he was hindered from participating very well with the PDP. Even his campaign in Eagle Square, he was banned there. He had to go to Old Parade Ground. On the rostrum there, what was he saying? He said, PDP means Poverty Development Party. Now, this thing is haunting him. Atiku was among the G34. Alex Kweme was there, Solomon La, Sunday Awoni, and many others who challenged Abacha at that time and said, return to democracy. They were the founders of PDP. Now, what are we saying? That Atiku, as let me call him a landlord of a PDP, is being sent away by tenants. I think it's really not the best journey for him so far. But again, like some people are saying, the movement does not mean anything, but that's just a political saying. If it hadn't meant anything, I think that they wouldn't have been talking. But his going, however, has to do with this standing of the PDP. When you say there has to be rotation, let it go to the south, and so be it. Atiku still wants to contest against the zoning principle. And so we are yet to see the infighting so far.
Let's stay with the Daily Sun. Calls for new constitution reverberate yet again. Anyaku, Tambuwal, Daniel, Obi of our nature, Ata, others make case, call for urgent overhaul. Operators nation's problem, according to Obasanjo. There was a bit of a divergence of ideas on this matter. The Patriots, a group of eminent Nigerians, insist we need a new constitution. Former President Olusegun Obasanjo, while in agreement on the need to have a document that reflects history, constituents, and aspirations, argues that those that run the country also play a key role in all that's happening. I mean, all my life as a political reporter, it's been the same discussion about, constitution. It seems Nigeria is a country of talkers and less of doers. The problem remains the same. Charles, do you want to come in here?
Absolutely. The issue of constitution review will never go away, but then it has become so perennial that I keep wondering whether the Nigerian constitution as it is will ever be reviewed, because apparently the provisions seem to favor those who are in power. But the moment they leave office, that's when they now start clamoring for the constitution to be reviewed, when they were there in position to have it reviewed, or at least to drive the review. That wasn't convenient at all. So at yesterday's event, those are elder statesmen whom I know have been around long enough to understand that times have changed, the dynamics of life and governance in Nigeria have also changed, and so it requires an overhaul of the constitution. The problem also is that, like analysts usually say, it is too weak to be able to sustain the rule of law. And so because of that, the loopholes that are available in it, create avenues for Nigerians to demonstrate the kind of impunity they do, particularly those in position of power. Gotcha. So the constitution as it is needs to be given more teeth so that it should be able to sustain the rule of law and probably revolutionize governance, politics, and generally life in Nigeria.
Right, that's a discussion that will not die anytime soon. A Daily Trust this morning, 151 police officers before disciplinary panel over ethical violation, others 34 sacked in 2 years. These 151 officers, some may be dismissed, while others may have their rank reduced at the end of the process, we're told. The probe into the conduct of officers follows petitions from individuals, lawyers, civil society organizations, among others, over alleged extortion, brutality, involvement in kidnapping, and other breaches. Yolanda, it's good to see there are consequences here because police extortion and brutality is quite common, and this has eroded public confidence over the years. So, you know, removing or punishing officers helps to sort of preserve the reputation of the force, isn't it? I mean, it's important.
This is definitely a positive report in the face of significant numbers of, you know, police violating the rights of Nigerians. So it's very welcome that it's being followed up closely, and this was done previously. I think before about 34 were also dismissed, of somewhere between the number of 34 or so. And this will have an impact as well, hopefully, on the public perception, you know, the handling of these cases and seeing that police are brought to book. They're not just, you know, a law unto themselves. So this is a very positive report, and I hope Nigeria will continue to see more of this in the wake of all the problems we've been facing, you know, with this police brutality, the extortion on the roads. This is a very, very welcome report, and I'm very happy to see it.
For people to even be aware that they can report such cases to the police, although some police officers will counter with the argument that they need to be tooled adequately in order to do their job. You know, there's a lot of problems in the force and of course in other sectors of Nigeria. But positive story, like you said. The Guardian newspaper, FG blames rising cases of cardiovascular diseases on high intake of sodium. This was expressed at a training on sodium reduction, and the government has developed national guidelines for sodium reduction. You know, good to always see that Guardian, you know, places health stories, alternative stories on the front page, unlike other papers. Lifestyle, you know, is destroying public health, and there isn't enough education that links the way we live or what we eat to the high levels of hypertension or diabetes that we see in the society. Ben, sick people becomes a sick nation.
Honestly, you see, Dr. Constance, sometimes when you're talking about political stories, they get screaming headlines. But when it comes to science, discoveries in Nigeria, and even health as we have now, sometimes they just bury, I mean, we journalists, we tend to bury those stories. It's good that we're now having this kind of stories in the front burner to ensure that there is education, there is awareness. These are the things people should do. Hypertension is killing people, killing very seriously in this country. So I think that time has come to, there is this body, the broadcasting organizations of Nigeria, newspaper proprietors of Nigeria, stories of this nature should always come to the front burner to ensure that people know what to do to protect themselves health-wise, to promote good living, because too much salt intake actually does a lot of harm to Nigerians, or in fact to humanity in general. But in Nigeria, salt intake, it's like every meal has to have this kind of salt. We have to look at it seriously, and kudos to Guardian for bringing it to the front page.
It's also other ingredients that we use to cook, right? It's not just the salt. MSG,
absolutely,
you know,
preservatives.
Yeah, a lot of it in the food. And then in this story, they also talked about packaging. When you package these products, you have to show the amount of MSG and salt in it. Anyway.
If we had a functional health system.
That's where standards organizations of Nigeria will come on board. They're supposed to be checking some of these things. Are they up to standard before they have been unleashed to the public? And they should also check if the labeling is the correct thing, so that it meets what is supposed to be. Once there is a global standard, we should meet it, and that's why we have SON, Standards Organization of Nigeria, to ensure that we are up to date, we are up to standard, and we keep to them.
I was going to add that if we had a functional health system where people were able to access health advisory services, like going for regular checkups where the doctor tells you, okay, you need to reduce this intake of sodium or salt, I think it would have gone a long way towards addressing the problem.
All right, our final story from the domestic market, or domestic stories. The Punch here, back to politics. 2027 tensions. Buhari CPC bloc may dump APC. The death of former President Muhammad Buhari, who founded the Congress for Progressive Change, has reignited speculations about the future of that bloc in the All Progressives Congress. The influence of the CPC within the APC was already waning. Now that he's been buried, the shape and form of that bloc will certainly change, especially given happenings within the APC in the past 2 years. Ben, very quick comment on this.
Yes, some people have been saying that in the north, Usman Danfodio led, Sir Ahmadu followed, now Buhari followed. Buhari is now gone. Where will did he ever mentor some people to take over from him? And that is why CPC today, we don't know where its pendulum will go to. Will they remain with APC? Are they going to move like others are moving? Very, very critical here. And of course, the few days ahead will say a lot in terms of where they belong. Because a founding member of CPC, Buba Galadima, has always been saying that they've never been reckoned with since APC came on board. So we wait to see, Dr. Melinda.
But you know, let me follow up on what you just said, you know, from Buba Galadima. When President Buhari was in power, the CPC bloc of APC was more influential, to the extent that, you know, Buhari was even accused of being quite clannish in his appointments. Now that it's President Bola Tinubu, the ACN bloc of the APC is more influential, and he is also being accused of being sectarian in terms of his appointment. So what he says fundamentally is that, you know, both blocs are not nationalistic in their outlook, and that's what we're seeing. All these accusations, they have sectarian tendencies. Let's move to the international headlines. A daily graphic. Over $227.6 million ECG contractors terminated. Mustafa Ahmed, 9 others charged for extorting 280 million cedis from oil companies. Too often we see this in the oil industry and corruption. And finally, families want state support for autism care. The Citizen newspaper, no chance of coup now, but South Africa is sitting on a time bomb caused by poverty, inequality, and joblessness, which could blow up into an insurrection, says experts. Although there is no serious risk of a military revolt, concerns are being raised now. Yolanda, when successive governments fail to deal with these social issues, the risks are many. But it's not only South Africa. It could be Nigeria. It could be other countries within the continent we've seen in the past couple of years.
Very true. I think Kenya is also facing a very similar situation. Now, the political climate in South Africa is quite volatile and really steep at the moment. You know, there's been a lack of jobs, poor infrastructure on government buildings, and this will eventually cause people to revolt. I was reading the report earlier, and I was seeing how Cyril Ramaphosa was coming under so much fire from analysts, where one even says he will go down in history as one of the most useless presidents that South Africa has had. And that is a very harsh comment. And seeing that is just a cross-section, like a reflection of what the people are feeling and thinking. So it's scary times for South Africa. Let's wait and see how it unfolds.
All right, the Guardian newspaper, 4 MPs lose Labour whip as PM attempts to reassert grip on party. Prime Minister Keir Starmer removed these party members from their position for breaching party discipline. We know that Starmer recently faced rebellion by his own backbenchers. Labour has only been in government for a year, and party members have been organizing against the government. Also, in a parliamentary system, the Prime Minister is not only the head of government, but also the head of the party. It's very different from what we have here in Nigeria, which is a presidential system. So what we see here is, bottom line, Starmer needs to get a grip on that party, and that's what's happening, Charles.
Come to think of it, the political situation in that country has been swinging left and right like a pendulum.
It's had to deal with a lot of crisis.
Absolutely.
In 1 year. Yeah.
So, you know, even in Parliament itself, where the Prime Minister is the first among equals. Well, I remember that there was this time he came under a lot of intense scrutiny, particularly from, well, our own Kemi Bad Enough. That's you know, the name they tend to give her.
Right.
And then of course the Chancellor of the Exchequer also having to deal with her own issues. So yes, the man is under a lot of intense pressure.
Yeah, intense. We couldn't get to our last story, but you know, we'll just read it. The Sun, airlift cover-up scandal, Afghan £1 billion blunder compo. A lot going on there. We'll have to leave it there. Ben Sherman, former director of News Voice of Nigeria. It's always a pleasure to have you early in the morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And that's all we have time for here on Daybreak. Thank you so much, Dr. Constance, for driving this newspaper review for today as usual. I'm Charles Eruka. It's goodbye from me.
And I'm Yolanda Robert. Please do keep it here on Arise News. The morning show is next. Bye-bye.